This used to be squash and melons, and I just pulled that out earlier this week. And I'm going to come in, I'm going to put down oats, and it's just getting a little bit late in the season. Over here I can show you some stuff I planted. You guys know what's special about legumes?
Nitrogen fixing bacteria.
Yeah, so they, on their roots, they have a special relationship with a bacteria in the soil that allows them to take nitrogen out of the air, which air is mostly made up of, but tomatoes don't have access to it. But legumes do, so they take the nitrogen out of the air and they can put it into the soil. So this is a really important way that we build nitrogen. My goal as a farmer here is to try to close our fertility loop. I want all the fertility that we produce, that we use, to be produced here. A lot of farmers will import fertility from their neighbors. Like, we have hog farmers, we could call them up and say, give us some hog manure, and they'd probably be happy to do it. But my goal is really to try to develop a system in which all the fertility is produced here, whether it's through our livestock or through green manures. Yep.
So this is part. Is this
Hold on, Jonathan.
These are oats.
Jonathan.
Yeah, the grassy looking stuff is oats. Yep.
What's funny is in French, legume is vegetable.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
Is there a measure of fertility? I mean, can you tell if is there a way you can say this soil is more fertile than it was 10 years ago?
Yeah, and that's mostly through, well, it's interesting. You can do soil tests, which is a really, obvious way. You take samples and you send them into a lab and they do a chemical analysis and they send you back numbers. And but the best way is just productivity. Like, you look at your productivity, and somebody described it to me as that you can send off, soil samples are basically trying to get a chemical process to describe a biological process. And if you can use a biological data collection system, which is basically harvesting,
right,
that may be more important to you, because you can have nitrogen present, but if the soils are too cold, the plants don't have access to it. If you don't have the right sort of various things in the soil, the plants might not have good access to it. So you can have all the ingredients there, but the plants can't get to it. So that chemical analysis loses meaning.
So you don't want bare soil because...
For several reasons. One is erosion. We can get a lot of, if we got a heavy rain now, that exposed soil could wash away, so there's water erosion. We get really strong winds through here, so there could be wind erosion. And then also, I really love to think of cover crops as the idea of harvesting the sun. And so right now we could be harvesting October sun for use next June and next July. So like all this, this is 99% sun, a little bit of water, and just a very, very small amount of minerals out of the soil. And we're going to put it back in the soil, so basically we're harvesting the sun today to use tomorrow.
So you'll till it under?
We'll probably graze this. The hairy vetch will winter over, the oats will winter kill. And so we might graze it. We'll see how big it gets. A lot of it depends on the weather temperatures from here on out. And I don't want to kill it, so we might just graze it down a little bit, move the sheep off really quickly. And then in the spring, the hairy vetch will take off, and it should get about knee-high, beautiful, big purple flowers. Really, it's a gorgeous plant.
So
and that's when it does.
How do you think they graze it down?
They put sheep on it.
Yeah, and you'll see, like, we have these portable fences that we use, so we can move the sheep anywhere we want with a solar charger.
Do you harvest the oats to plant again, or do you buy new?
No.
Yeah, not worth it.
No. And mostly I use oats in the fall because they germinate really quickly, and so you can get a really quick cover, and they're dirt cheap too. It's organic oats. You can get 50 pounds for like $12. So. So there's, I wouldn't say.
Ask him what?
What did he just say?
How do you germinate the carrots?
Well, carrots are tricky because they take 14 days to germinate, at least 14 days, which is a really long time. It's probably, parsnips take 21 days, but nothing takes nearly that long. Most things are around 5 to 10 days. So I put them in the ground.
So what does that matter that it takes a long time?
What do you mean take?
Well, why does he care that it takes 14 days to germinate?
Well, because he wants to pull them up faster.
No, not quite. Why don't you ask him?
Why do you care about how long it takes?
Because until those seeds germinate, I can't really care for them. I can't weed them or fertilize them or anything. So once they start to germinate, then I can care for them. The problem is when things take a long time to germinate, the weed seeds are busy that whole time. So so before we plant the carrots, we're tilling the soil, and that brings up a lot of seeds. It also introduces a lot of moisture into areas that you know, the top may not have any moisture on it, and then suddenly we're turning that over, and the weed seeds get instantly activated, and they'll start growing. Like some of them will germinate, you know, in hours. And so we let those grow a little bit, and then come through with the flame weeder. We have a
Big torch.
yeah, like an LP tank, and it's I think Red Devil is the brand.
Yep.
And it throws
I
a
got
flame, you know, like 12 feet, and you just crank that up, and it's kind of like a pre-emergent herbicide. And we just go through and we just burn
So
all the
so
weeds.
pre-emergent means before your crop emerges, you kill everything else that has already emerged. But instead of doing it with chemicals, he does it with a flame.
The thing about a flame weeder though is it works best on broadleaf weeds, so it's not great for us in the spring. So I've actually kicked our carrot production back. I don't plant carrots before June 1st because then a lot of our grass pressure has subsided a little bit, and then we start seeing a lot more broadleaves. And for the most part, the grasses like the cool, wet weathers of spring. They don't like hot, dry weather of summer. But the things like lamb's quarters and pigweed and buttonweed, all those things are waiting for that hot weather, and they're really susceptible to flame if you get them when they're young.
Yep.
That's the trick.
Okay,
And
so
sometimes you're flaming it even before you can see them. They're in sort of the white root phase, I think they call it. Like the seed will often put down a little root first before it actually puts up some leaves. And that's the best time to flame because you can go by really quickly. And
enough heat, even if you don't even see it up, it'll kill it.
Yeah, what some people will do is like they put down carrots and then they'll throw down a few radish seeds, which radishes will germinate in 2 or 3 days. Once they see a radish seed, they'll go through with a flamer and do that.
And you know you kill everything else.
Yeah,
right now.
I just pay attention to the calendar. And I do it as frequently as I can. Like those carrots that were nice and clean, fairly weed-free. Like I did those twice before the carrots came up, and it really saved us a lot of time. I mean, it took me probably 40 minutes, but it saved us easily 20 hours of weeding labor.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a big deal.
So tell me about this thing in your hand.
This is a soil probe, and it's kind of like a tube with a handle. And we use this primarily to take soil samples for soil tests. And the trick about soil tests is that, you know, if I come right here and I stick this in the ground, and let's say we had sheep here and the sheep pooped right there, I'm going to get a biased sample that has a lot of sheep poop in it. And so what we try to do is we try to limit some of that bias by taking multiple samples, mixing them all together, and then sending that into the lab. So, and they say there's, you know, there are rules or there are suggestions on how to do this. And one of the rules is that you define the area that you want to have tested, and then you walk a W pattern through that, because it kind of covers everything north to south and east to west in sort of a random way. And then you take a sample like every 10 steps, and then you mix that all together and send it in. And they actually need very little soil to do a test. So 10 of these will easily give you enough soil.